Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to talk about VIN 2212, and it's a car that just popped up on AutoTrader here at the beginning of August, and there's no pictures yet. It's coming soon. You go to the dealer's website, there's nothing on there yet. So I wanted to get a head start on it to give you what I have, because I know the questions will be coming. But because there's no pictures, I will give you what I have, and we can go off of that and make an informed decision from there without even seeing it. This is a 2017, it's paint code 223, which is caviar, or kind of a metallic black, with LA20 interior, which is black interior. So basically 2017 black on black. And it's for sale in New Jersey at a Lexus dealer there. Started its life in California, and it was sold to the first owner in Pennsylvania, of which it looks like it remained until it was for sale now. The asking price for this car is $50,000 with 60,000 miles on it. And so that seems pretty reasonable, all things considered, especially where the market is right now. So let's jump into it and see what we can find out about this. First and foremost, production statistics. Most of the GSF that you will see that come up for sale are either black or white. 54% of all the cars made were black or white. And so this is no exception. 446 of the 2,347 GSFs identified for the US 49 market, so United States except Hawaii, 446 of them were caviar black. Of those 446, 224 had the LA20 interior. So again, pretty common combination. For 2017 specifically, there were 65 that were caviar out of the 342 that were produced, and 38 had LA20 interior. So this car is one of 38 made. If it was a Mustang or something else, you'd be like, wow, that's rare. But in this case, there's quite a few of them. Pretty common combination as far as the GSFs go. Carfax, Epic VIN, and AutoTrader. Carfax shows it as a one owner, two accident car, and the first one in January of 2020 with pretty moderate damage, and I'll get into that in just a minute. Second one in April of 2025, so very recently, before it was put up for sale, it was in an accident. Epic VIN shows it as a four owner, no accident car, and Epic VIN can sometimes look into stuff a little too much. Almost every time that it's listed for sale, it counts that as a new owner, and so that's not always the case with that. AutoCheck shows it as a one owner, two accident car, again like Carfax, January 20th of 2020 and April 22nd of 2025. So that first accident, it says on the AutoCheck that the hood, bumper, grille, radiator, fender were all either replaced or repaired, and so and it says moderate damage. Like that's a pretty good amount of damage. And so that would be something that before I even see this car, or when I see it in person, I would make sure that everything on that front end is properly replaced, properly repaired, everything lines up. If not, I'd be walking. So there could be some other hidden issues underneath there. As you've heard me talk about in other videos, the front ends of these cars and the things behind the bumper are very expensive if they get damaged. And so if they were not repaired correctly, you know, that may present issues further down the line. Previous sales. It was originally listed for sale in March of 2017 for $89,000 in California. And then it was still for sale in December of 2017. They dropped it now to $70,000, had 2,300 miles, so it was probably like a dealer demo or something like that. Still for sale in March of 2018. So you're talking a year later, and now it's $67,000 with 2,300 miles. So you've heard me talk about this in other videos where these cars, when they were new, they did not sell well. They sat on dealer lots sometimes as many as 2 years, where they just sat around unsold because the dealers wouldn't discount them. And so they've eventually, in order to get them sold, they had to discount them $15,000, even $20,000 to get them sold. As is the case here, $90,000 new, it finally sold $67,000. So you're talking about $23,000 off of the list price to get it sold to the first owner. And so that was the case with this car. And so now the current listing, August 8th, 2025, is listed by this Lexus dealer for $50,000, 60,000 miles. So since this is normally where I would talk about looking at the pictures that the dealers provided, since there aren't any pictures, I would just think about that first of the two accidents. The fact that it has two accidents too, but the first accident it sounds like it was a pretty severe accident, not major accident, but moderate damage reported. Carfax can be very lenient or not when it comes to reporting the levels of damage, minor, whatever. My wife and I have a 2013 Accord that's her daily driver. That car was involved in a pretty major accident when it was 6 months old. $22,000 worth of damage. They didn't total it. It had frame damage, all the airbags deployed, everything. It shows as a minor accident on Carfax. So, take that with a grain of salt when you see the level of severity of which Carfax reports. But generally, when they report more than minor, it's worth investigating in case there is something to look at. We'll jump into the service history here in a moment, but the cliff notes from that, basically I don't see anywhere where any of the carbon fiber trim has been replaced at the dealer. So it's either been done outside of warranty or it hasn't failed yet, not likely. The valley plate, I don't see where the valley plate has been done, the coolant valley plate. That said, let's go ahead and jump into the service history. First and foremost, this car looks very well dealer serviced, and so that's always a plus. The very first entry that I've noted is in March of 2018, the JLB recall was done. That's the high pressure fuel pumps. Both of those were replaced, and that's done and out of the way. 3 months later, the grill vent popped out and they had to take some things off to replace that. That's the big vents underneath the headlights. They don't fit extremely well on these cars, and that's not anything to be concerned of. December 2018, there was a wheel repair and some new tires. Looks like they hit something. Again, no cause for concern there. The accident on this, the first accident was January 2020. And so here it is, January 2020, same exact date, January 20th, 2020, install snow tires. Wonder if that had something to do with it. A couple months later, March of 2020, they note that it was in an accident and to install new paint protection film on the front. The transmission was also reported low on fluid, probably related to that accident because underneath those two large vents on the driver's side is the transmission cooler and the passenger side, it's the oil cooler. So, or it could be vice versa, I get those mixed up, but the point being, the transmission and oil coolers are behind those big vents, and if you hit something, obviously those are going to get damaged. And it sounds to me like there's a possibility that that was either not repaired or replaced, or maybe the line leaked some fluid out, something like that, but that's why it was low on transmission fluid. Still in 2020, there was a wheel that was damaged by a tech, and they noted some trim under the car may be damaged as well. Don't have much to go on there. March of 2022, the left front and the right rear shocks were leaking and were replaced. No surprises there. Fast forward another almost 2 years, October 2024, the left front shock was leaking again. That's probably the first one I've seen where they were leaking and it was replaced and then the replacement leaked. So anyway, left front and right rear have been replaced, so I would look at the right front and the left rear to make sure that those are not leaking if you're going to go look at this car. So the next entry is pretty important. This is May of 2025, right before it's going on for sale. Internal transmission problem noted and new transmission cooler. I think that's probably related to that accident in 2020. Could be something else. Not common to see transmission issues on these cars other than people complaining about that they shift slow until it fully warms up. So that would be something, a little bit of concern, but the fact that it was addressed there, maybe in a mechanical inspection, I would plug in a scanner, make sure that there's no stored codes or any history of codes prior to that. See if that being low on transmission fluid caused any damage to the transmission, because that is a very real possibility there. And the latest entry is August of 2025, and it was just a basic oil and filter and prep for sale. Looking at that service history now, I would say well serviced. It has a couple issues, most likely related to that 2020 accident, but if you can look past that and of course inspect it extremely closely, and when I say extremely closely, I would say more than just your typical pre-purchase inspection. I would get it on a lift, pull the guards off underneath so you can look up underneath the car, look at the brackets, look at things like that to see if they were either repaired, replaced, if there's anything that's still damaged that's hiding from being covered up. So that's something that I would definitely look into. The valley plate, coolant valley plate leak, there's no signs of it being addressed here. Not saying it has, but these cars are getting of that age and time where you're starting to see a lot of them that have a coolant valley plate leak. And so I would expect, if it hasn't been done on this car, I would put some money aside to get it done. I would also inspect the lower control arm bushings, as always with these cars. Turn the wheels fully to the left and the right. Look at the insides of the tires. Make sure they're not worn. If they are, you've got tires and alignment and lower control arm bushings that you've got to pay for that. A couple other things that I did not see done in the service history. These cars were known for having servo issues with the HVAC, the interior heating and cooling servos. There's 5 of them that are underneath the dash. This car, I don't see anywhere in the history where any of that's been done. Not to say that it could have any issues. The HVAC issues that these cars had were very spotty. Some of them were plagued with it. Others, like this one, it seems like it didn't have any issues. However, if you're going to have your scanner, your fancy scanner plugged in to inspect that, I would make sure that there's no stored codes in the body control module for the HVAC stuff. If there is, you may have to look at removing the dash for some of those. That can be pretty spendy as far as labor goes, but that's something to look into. Speaking of the dash, the ZLZ customer service program for this particular car, it's never been done. So that's the deformed, sticky, cracked dash. It has not been done on this car. It's only covered by Lexus for 10 years or 125,000 miles from the in-service date. So this car, you've got about another year and a half or so until, well, I guess if it was sold new, well, it depends on what they actually marked as the in-service date. You may have as late as like 2028 for this car before that's affected. But I would look at the dash, make sure it's not sticky or anything. And if it is, Lexus will replace the dash free of charge. The part's not expensive, it's the labor that gets you, but it could be potentially $600 to $800 for that outside of this customer service program coverage. So that's another thing to check out. Without seeing photos of this car, would I buy this car if I was in the market for a GSF? I would probably move on. I don't think I would consider this one just because of that accident, and it seems like for the last 5 years there's been some nagging issues as a result of that, kind of what it looks like based on the service history. There are always others that will pop up. This one has 2 accidents on the Carfax. It's a common color, it's a common combo. Looks like it's been winter driven. So, it seems to me like there are better options out there if you're looking for one of these to like really hang on to as a really nice day car. This could be more along the lines of like a driver quality car where you just jump into it, value be damned kind of thing, and just go enjoy it. That, of course, is assuming that there's no other issues underlying with the mechanicals and things like that. So anyway, that's what I've got here on VIN 2212. If they do post pictures or anything, I will update it. But, if it were me, I would probably move on from this one. That's just my opinion. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you soon.